Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to focus on something I have covered in different ways previously, but it's the idea of how does the profit economics work for big business, international big business now compared to how it worked previously when it revolved around individual per citizen per capita wealth, and is transitioned now into mass consumer wealth. So this transition, as much as anything, is turning what were consumer rights and the consumer, the customer, is really making this now irrelevant in a number of ways, because with importing masses of illegal aliens and third world peasants, consumer mass is created, and this so individual consumers and customers and per capita has been subsumed, if you like, or become a subset of total consumer mass. And the way any business with any business selling goods or services, the way it prospered was to look after the customer, make products the customer wanted to buy, and so on. That's effectively changed, and more products and services or anything you need is moving into an oligopoly or monopoly or price cartel type situation. Big pharma is an excellent example of that, as are big banks and international finance and so on. So you've kind of got nowhere to go. You don't have consumer choice, or certainly not in the way it was. Or in say the case of Australia, there were 7 or 8 major grocery chains. Now there are kind of 2.5. Effectively, it's an oligopoly now, and the competition to look after the customer, and also as once existed, doesn't exist anymore. And just an example of that, there was a catalog promotion product that I went to buy and at the store recently, and it was out of stock and had been out of stock for the entire period of the promotion. So the promotion lasted, like a week, whatever it was. But the product was unavailable for the week. So they used to have, years ago, and to some extent it's patchy, they still do, where you could say, well, or the company would say, look, we were obligated to provide this product for you at the promotional price. We weren't able to, for whatever the reason, or didn't. So we'll give you a voucher here so that you can come back at any time within the next 30 or 60 days, and you can get that product at that promotional price. So I went in to do that. So what can I have that? So they called it a rain check or different names, but no, we don't do that now. So I said, well, hey, the product's been out of stock for the period of promotion. So I just got the shoulder shrug and, hey, don't care, and off they went. And I'm finding this in various consumer type situations. I recently went in to get a burger at a national burger chain, advertised on their website as a promotion, and even sending out adverts to my online, to the online feed through like YouTube and so on, and get there, and none of the staff know anything about it, and the deputy manager, whoever she was, is determined to fight to the death to not concede the point that they're supposed to be offering that burger at the promotional price, as the website and the adverts say. So the idea of looking after the consumer is kind of long gone, and I think it's part of the overall transition to what is now total consumer mass. Now, what got me sort of back onto this was having lunch. I sound like some sort of social butterfly given these people. I mean, it's not like that actually, but anyhow, having lunch, and in the group was a guy who he was actually sitting over the side of my wife, but a guy who was there, and he's like an actuary, sort of I don't know, what would you call it, a financial modeler. I'm simplifying that a little bit, but a financial modeler looking at longer term implications of the finances and the consumer spend ratios, things like that. And so putting inflation aside, which is clearly an issue, but putting inflation aside, people are spending less money now on their groceries than they were. So say, I'll round off the numbers, say they were spending $100 a few years ago. Now they're only spending $89.50 or something, but they're spending quite a bit less. Now, this is hardly surprising because the cost of energy, electricity has gone up through the roof. All this green nonsense, bullshit green stuff that they say is helping, but it's not. It's just putting huge taxes and costs on the citizens and driving down their standard of living, which I think is the primary purpose of it all. And then, of course, you've got the cost of real estate, rent. So all the things that you must have gone up in price, and all the things that are discretionary, absolutely discretionary, have stayed pretty stable or even gone down a little bit. So I mean, you don't have to have a 4 or 5 foot wide big screen television, 120 centimeter wide. So you don't have to have that. I mean, you can have it, but you don't have to have it. Whereas you kind of have to have somewhere to live. So anyway, coming back to the idea of the consumer here, now, as well as being or coming back to the numbers rather, just to finish off on that, because the consumer spend is going down, how does a big firm compensate for that? So if they've got a reasonably static pool of customers, and those customers have other costs they need to meet, rent and energy and mortgage payments and whatever, then they're less and less able to spend money on groceries, or they'll buy the cheaper grocery items, or they'll tighten the belt a bit and so on. Now, this is no good if you're a grocery chain or if you're selling quite a bit of other stuff, and grocery, you got to eat, so they'd be the least exposed to the people having less money in their pockets, but exposed they are. And the spending patterns of people have changed as rent goes through the roof. People will start living in larger groups, for example, and you see there's a lot of talk about how wealthy the Indians are, but you can have 4 generations, as the Chinese do. You can have 4 generations living in one house. It's a bigger house and this sort of stuff, but you can have 4 generations living in the one house, all sharing those costs and so on, which gives the illusion of wealth, but a very substantial departure from the lifestyle and standard of living that Australians or Westerners generally are used to. So that departure in quality of life, or that ditching quality of life in return for sort of economic mass. And we're seeing the same sort of concept in consumer mass. So what this guy was effectively saying was that because the individual consumer spend is declining, and they accept this, again, rent and energy and so on, that the population can't stay static or grow by small amounts, otherwise they will become less viable as a business. And their major shareholders are the likes of the BlackRocks and the Vanguards and so on. And in order to increase shareholder wealth and to keep profits increasing, the only thing they can do is, as they see it, is import large numbers of consumers. Now, these consumers have to eat. So big pharma, big multinational businesses, they're quite protected by this, or they benefit disproportionately from the incoming, the influx of all these mass migrants. It doesn't matter if these migrants are illiterate or they're all quadruple PhD rocket scientists. It doesn't matter, because you still got to eat, and so the benefit is almost immediate as these people come in. But it's changed the whole economics of how a consumer works. You're no longer having to look after the consumer or to give a shit about the consumer. What is of interest to you is total consumer mass. That's it. Nothing else matters. And as long as you can have increasing total consumer mass, then you're okay. So unsurprisingly, these firms are the ones that benefit in this way. These are the firms that lobby very hard for mass migration to continue. They see it as it reduces or keeps a permanent dampener on wages, but also, again, everyone has to eat. So you look at any organisation supplies essential goods. It could be energy companies, it could be property developers, it could be big finance. Well, not could be, it is big finance, big multinational grocery chains, and so on. Big pharmacy chains. I mean, the list goes on, and liquor, sort of national liquor stores and alcohol beverage stores. They're all the ones that are queuing up lobbying the government for, and that's a pretty formidable lobby group. Look at the property developers and the big banks and the big pharma, and you look at the amount of politicians who, when they've end politics, they go and work for these big firms on very handsome salaries, by the way, and how many of their kids and relatives and mistresses and goodness knows what are also employed corruptly, in my view, employed by these organisations, or they've got they come out and form these consultancy lobby groups, and then again are paid millions to really provide corrupt patronage favours and make connections and make contacts with political decision makers and senior public servants and the like. So just looking at the overall economics here, really these organisations, there are a number of things moving sort of in different directions at the same time. As the mass migration drives up the price of rent and real estate, or plays a big part in it, drives up the price of rent and so on. People have less money, therefore they can't spend as much in the shops. Therefore, the shops, the big chains say, okay, we accept that they've got less money, but you have to we'll go along with the mass migration on that side, but they also got to bring in even more people now to compensate us for the declining per capita expenditure rate, because people are being squeezed on rents and energy. So as you see, it becomes a self-fulfilling sort of round robin of A begets B begets C, which then goes back to begetting A, and so it all goes into the maelstrom and the hurdy-gurdy together. But that's what's happening, and until that circuit or cycle rather is broken, this is going to be a sort of an ever descending whirlpool that's going to take us right to the bottom. And I think ultimately, as consumer spending power decreases, it'll just simply force or create forces that will in turn deliver monopolies and oligopolies and vicious price extraction. If you don't buy such and such from there, then we'll put you in prison. Those sort of penalties will fine you and so on. I think that's where we're heading ultimately if this trajectory continues. Being a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.